afternoon and welcome to Atrium Live with me, Emilie Kjellero.
And me, Dan Moffat. Today we'll be bringing you the latest updates on the coronavirus pandemic from our reporters based around the world.
We start off in Wales, where a senior doctor has issued a strong warning about the spread of coronavirus in the area of the old county of Gwent. Joe Strong is in Cwmbran. Good afternoon, Joe. What's the latest?
Hi, I'm here in my family home in Cwmbran, and the Lyre and Bevan Health Board, which is the health board for Newport, Cwmbran, Pontypool and Abergavenny, seeing the most cases of the coronavirus in Wales with 309, which tops Cardiff, which only has 125. Unfortunately, 22 people across Wales have lost their lives to the virus so far, and one of these fatalities was an 80-year-old woman who contracted the virus whilst having a routine surgery at the Royal Gwent Hospital in Newport. There are 628 confirmed cases all over Wales, and basically a lot of strain has been put on the health board. So the director for the coronavirus, Dr. Robin Howe, has claimed that COVID-19 is now present all the way across Wales. He obviously sends his condolences on behalf of the family who have lost loved ones to the virus. And the Health Minister, Vaughan Gething, said social care workers in Wales have been supplied with equipment in order to reinforce supply routes that have come under pressure because of the virus.
And what has the First Minister of Wales, Mark Drakeford, said about the lockdown this week?
Mark Drakeford essentially said everyone needs to stay inside. I think it was about 4 days ago. He said that everyone needs to follow the rules or the recommendations that Boris Johnson put in place to ensure that everyone is safe and healthy and we can beat this disease or virus rather faster.
Thanks, Joe. Elsewhere across Wales, local communities and families are being affected in many different ways by the outbreak of coronavirus. Jordan Howell is a second-year student. Here's what he's noticed in his local area and also how the crisis has affected his family.
I live in the east of Cardiff in St Mellons, and I've noticed it's a lot quieter on the roads and on the streets. There are some people taking their dogs for a walk or having a jog or whatever. At my local Tesco's, they are putting in a one-in, one-out policy, and they're also putting some social distancing measures in place. My place of work, John Lewis, was closed at the weekend, and instead all of the partners there are being redeployed to local Waitrose branches. I haven't been there just yet, but I think on Friday that will be my first shift, so I'll see how that goes. My partner works at the University Hospital of Wales in the labs, and he's noticed, as well as doing all of the overtime that he is now, that there's so many more samples that there would normally be, as he's working with his team to test and analyse the coronavirus tests that are being sent in. Back home in Essex, my mum is a teacher. She's switched to online teaching, and my dad is a paramedic. He's a little bit worried at the minute because it's business as usual, as you'd expect, but they're getting a bit low on stocks of personal protective equipment, masks, gloves, antibacterial hand wash. I think that's going to start figuring itself out soon as the supplies get to them. My sister she works in the City of London. She's working from home indefinitely, but it is good to see now that people are starting to heed the advice of the government before the police powers come into effect.
Last Friday, the UK government closed all schools in an attempt to slow down the spread of the coronavirus. Pupils were given home learning packs, and parents are now expected to teach children at home. First-year journalism student Emily Price is playing the role of teacher with her 5-year-old daughter Belle, whilst keeping up with her own studies. How are things going, Emily?
So I'm here in Merthyr Tydfil with my daughter Belle, where I've been trying to homeschool her as well as keep on top of my university studies too. We've been sent home learning packs to go over with our children. It's been a bit of a struggle, to be honest, to try and go over all of that with her whilst I'm trying to keep up with my own assessments and deadlines. So here's my daughter Belle talking about what it's like to learn at home.
My mummy is teaching me at home because school is cancelled because of a virus.
So at the start of this week, it was a little bit harder trying to teach her at home because it was just me. But unfortunately, my husband, Tom, he lost his job a few days ago because of the coronavirus. The business wasn't able to continue. So the bright side of that is I do have him here with me to help me homeschool my daughter now, which means that I'm able to sort of get some study time in myself. Back to Dan and Amelia.
Thanks, Emily Price, for joining us from Merthyr Tydfil. Now, with the rising pressure placed on NHS staff during the coronavirus outbreak, many care workers are having to sacrifice their own safety and free time at home to work. Lawrence Evans' mum is a community nurse and joins us now with more.
So the increasing number of coronavirus cases in the UK has led to an even heavier reliance on the NHS and its workers, most of whom are currently working without breaks and are under immense pressure to provide the usual level of care, but to many more patients. One of these people is my mum, who works as a community nurse for the NHS.
So my mum is a community nurse, and although her care team primarily care for the elderly and end of life, her team have recently been told that with the high increase of cases of coronavirus in the UK, that there is a possibility that if the hospitals can't care for the high amount of people, they will be sent home and people like my mum will have to go and care for them. They've already found one issue with this. For example, they are not being supplied with the correct equipment. So each member of her team have been given 2 masks to wear when they go to visit the patients. However, one is only single use and the other lasts for 8 hours. But of course they are working for the majority 5 days a week. So it just isn't enough.
Due to worries that the already existing hospitals in the area do not have the capacity high enough for the expected influx of coronavirus patients, local theatres and even the Parc y Scarlets rugby stadium are being turned into temporary hospitals for those who have contracted the virus. This means that there is an increasing need for more NHS volunteers and staff in order to maintain the balanced proportion of patient to carer.
That's how things are looking in Wales at the moment. Now let's go to Germany. Jai Ashton from Lancashire in England is currently staying with his girlfriend's family as they're isolating in Dietramswil in Bavaria, Germany. He's currently out with the youngest sibling of the family, Tassilo. Good afternoon, Jai and Tassilo.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm here in gorgeous Bavaria with Tassilo, my girlfriend's brother. So Tassilo, could you please tell us where you study in the UK?
So I study in a boarding school in UK in the south, in Dorset, called Bryanston School.
And what's the reason for you having to come home?
So due to the coronavirus, I had to go home. At first, my parents were more easy and said, no, you're going to stay in school till school ends. But then due to all those drastic changes and the virus spreading quite, immensely, my parents took me home.
And are you still studying whilst you're at home?
I am. I have to. My parents are making me study, unfortunately. And I'm trying to keep my timetable, but sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So, yeah.
And what are you doing to keep yourself occupied whilst you have to be at home?
So I'm trying to do sport every day, even though I'm quite a lazy person. But I try to do a run or go for a bicycle ride. And just try to get some fresh air as well. Watch some Netflix as well, of course.
And what's the best thing and the worst thing about having to stay at home?
So the best thing is probably the food, to be honest, because we're all like taking turns about cooking, even though some people aren't that good in cooking in our family. And probably the worst thing is coming back to Germany and not being able to go out to see my friends, or just in general going out or going somewhere where you want to. But of course also, like, now that I've left boarding school, I really, really miss it. So I started to appreciate that a lot.
Thank you very much, Tassilo. And that is everything from me. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Jai Ashton with Tasio Brecht in Bavaria there. Now let's go to Eastern Europe. Our reporter Magdalena Postkonkova is in Eastern Czech Republic. Afternoon, Magdalena. How are things in the Czech Republic at the moment?
Hi then. So the whole country is in lockdown already for 11 days. Since last week, everybody has to wear a face mask in the public. And obviously at the time, the whole country was lacking of any medical equipment. And therefore people start to make their own DIY face masks. They also post it on social media, and it spread all over the country that everybody across the Czech Republic were basically sewing their own face masks and deliver them to hospitals and pharmacies and everybody who need them. Another act of kindness was a person who is actually a distillery owner and start to make his own hand sanitizer. So there's lots of people with innovating ideas, and it's really nice to see that people come together and help each other.
Now, you had a bit of a struggle getting home from the UK back to the Czech Republic. You're currently now in 2 weeks self-quarantine. How is that going for you?
So I am back from Wales for 6 days now. And so I'll show you my daily routine, which I have at home, because I have to be really careful at home with my parents. I'm always wearing my face mask if I'm leaving my room, just to be sure not to put them in risk. I also have to put my hand sanitizer and just be really careful and conscious about their safety. I use my own hand towel and other things because the thing is, one of my parents is in high risk group, so just to be really conscious what I'm doing.
That was Magdalena Ploskonkova in Eastern Czech Republic. But how are other Czech people dealing with the isolation? Jan Jarobek in Prague. Hi, Jan.
Hi, good afternoon from Prague. Things are going pretty good. Czech television's helping the people. They've come up with 2 more channels. Now there's a 3rd channel, the public service television, that's aiming at the elderly people, so they can watch it from 9 a.m. till 5 p.m. There's also an educational channel for the kids that go to the primary schools. It's mainly aiming at the kids from the 1st to 6th grade, and it's teaching them, the proper teachers teaching the kids via the television. I'm trying to move around my house as much as I can. I'm now in my room, but I just try to keep things moving so I don't get too bored, and I have some time for the reading. And this is my 2nd week in the quarantine, but I'm really hoping to get out, to be perfectly fair. It's very strange when you look outside of the window that I live by a very frequent road, and there's about 45,000 cars going every day during the normal days, but now there's almost no cars in there, so it's just very weird. It's a strange feeling.
That was Jan Jarobek joining us live from Prague. Thanks, Jan. Back to the UK now, and we've mentioned the fact that schools, colleges and universities have all closed their doors as a result of the coronavirus outbreak, meaning assessments and exams for students up and down the country have been thrown up in the air. Year 10 GCSE students are facing extra pressure due to their exams being postponed until next year. Alao John's sister is one of those GCSE students. She joins us with the latest from West Wales. Afternoon, Elo.
Hello, yes, school is a crucial part of everybody's life, especially when you're about to sit your GCSEs. However, the current situation has left Year 10 students uncertain of where they stand. Here's Manon John explaining the latest on what they've heard.
Obviously now these exams have been postponed until next year, so now I have 6 exams on top of the 11 original exams I already had. This does cause a lot of stress and does scare me, obviously, but I know that the whole of Year 10 is in the same boat, so this does give a bit of comfort.
Now, Elo, you also have family outside of the UK. Where are they based and how have they been affected?
Yes, one of my cousins is stranded in New Zealand, where she was ending her 10-month travelling experience, and my other cousin, Natalie Gowman, recently emigrated to Spain to teach science in an international school. Here's a short clip of her revealing the loneliness she feels away from her family and friends at this time.
Hi, I'm in lockdown in Spain. It's been 12 days. We're only allowed to go out for necessities such as grocery, food shopping and pharmacies, and even then we can get stopped and fined €600 if they don't think that we're out for a genuine cause. I live on my own, so not only is it isolating, it's very lonely. You can see the field behind me where residents here can walk their dogs quickly, and someone waved to me the other day and felt quite emotional about it because I just haven't seen anyone for 11 days except for a quick passing in the supermarket where you're trying to keep away from each other anyway. Stay safe.
Now let's hop over to the US. Cole Harris lives in New Jersey. Cole, what's the situation where you are?
Well, Dan, so far here in New Jersey, the state is currently in a lockdown, having been in one since Saturday. So far, 21 states, including New Jersey, have put themselves in a stay-at-home lockdown, with California having been the first to do so back on the 19th of March. As for nationwide advice, the White House announced on the 16th of March the CDC guidelines encouraging all Americans to work from home when possible and to limit gatherings to 10 people. Alongside the guidelines, they've taken steps regarding international travel, with the U.S. State Department recently announcing a worldwide level 4 do not travel advisory. This came just a day after the U.S. and Canada announced they would close their borders to non-essential traffic. Having been in Wales myself for university, I made the decision last Friday to travel back home, and at this point, the U.S. had already introduced a 30-day travel ban to 26 countries in the Schengen area before adding the United Kingdom and Ireland to the list. In doing this, all the flights were directed to 13 airports across the country. Lucky for me, New York and JFK were two of them, Newark being my home airport. But at this point, I was already facing some difficulties getting home, as the airline I was scheduled to fly with was no longer flying to Newark, so I was forced to fly into JFK. But since being back here, it only took one day until New Jersey was in the lockdown. That was on the 21st of March. They joined Illinois, who went into lockdown on the same day. And currently, as I said, 21 states have followed this procedure. As of today in New Jersey, there's 4,402 reported cases with 62 deaths. Nationwide, though, the country has been criticized for its lack of testing, with some drive-through testings just making an appearance around the country. Here, it took until the 2nd of March for New Jersey Public Health Environmental Laboratory in West Trenton, which is the capital of New Jersey, to be approved to conduct tests. Before this, they were having to send their tests to a CDC lab in Atlanta. So the question here, though, remains, what is the way forward? President Trump has recently said that he wants the nation up and going. He said opened up and raring to go by Easter. But of course, with countries around the world shut down, this impact has also been spread to economy. And it was revealed today that 3.28 million Americans have claimed for unemployment, which is 4 times the previous unemployment record. They have approved a $2 trillion stimulus package in the Senate, though, which sends some direct cash payments to Americans and billions of dollars to struggling industries. So the questions, as I said, what's the way forward here in America? And we'll have to see if more states respond to the outbreak, possibly more state emergencies and lockdowns. But as a country as a whole, will we see more testing and possibly move towards a total shutdown?
Thanks to Cole Harris for joining us from New Jersey in the USA.
Back home now in the UK, some student accommodation owners have been releasing students from their contracts with university cities, turning into ghost towns over the last few weeks. Now, Adam Meaton is a second-year student at University of South Wales who had to evacuate Cardiff in order to avoid COVID-19 risks. Good afternoon, Adam. Why did you have to evacuate, first of all?
The situation to why I had to evacuate Cardiff started when a flatmate told us that they were coming back from Gloucester. Having done quite a bit of research, Gloucester had been a high area involving the COVID-19 cases and had a lot of risk when it comes to just people walking around on the day-to-day. This particular flatmate had gone out, been socializing, drinking, not really social distancing or putting himself in isolation as he should. So this ended up putting my girlfriend and my other flatmate at risk, so we just decided to pack all our things and leave at 9 a.m. the next morning. It was quite a rush. It took us because we had to drive one flatmate over to Chippenham and then all the way back to Bridgend, which is the other side of Cardiff. But yeah, it was quite scary.
And what were the particular risks that threatened you? And do you feel a bit safer now that you're back home with family?
Well, the reason that we felt so inclined to leave, even though as 19-year-olds, well, 20 to 19-year-olds, we're not very at risk of being harmed by the COVID-19. Although seeming as we all wanted to visit our families and see our families, if we had something that wasn't known to us and we pass it on to a family member, who then passed on to a family member with even more risks, you could put everyone in a lot of danger.
We'll now go back to South Wales. Sally Ann Burris is there for us. You've been speaking to some taxi drivers who are willing to help out with the NHS who are under pressure at the moment, Sally.
I have. I've been talking to a few taxi drivers who are part of the Unite Union in Cardiff. They have been expressing a desire to speak to assist with the NHS patients and the most vulnerable patients in the UK. They kind of recognise themselves as an emergency service, because where ambulances are late and other things are going on in people's lives, they're always the ones that were there efficiently and effectively. So they approached the union and discussed with the union about how they could assist NHS and how they could protect some of the most vulnerable customers that they have. They're kind of a key in all of this, because having to be registered by local councils, they're all DBS checked, they're all kind of prepped ready to be able to step in. Ironically, the government is now asking for volunteers, and the figure originally was 250,000, that's gone up now. They feel like they are the perfect solution for that. The drivers initially approached the union saying that they were willing to work for free for anybody over the age of 70 and to assist NHS staff in doing their job, whether that was transporting emergency items or whether it was taking staff from A to B. The union had then started talks at a higher level saying they wanted to assist. They recognised that the taxi drivers, their income, they're self-employed, so they have no income. Living on benefits wouldn't suit them bringing their families up. So the union said that they were going to see how they could utilise the subscription fees that the taxi drivers have, and then help them by maybe providing fuel costs or some day-to-day running costs. I am told that some of the top managers of the union, which is a UK-wide union, are now discussing this in London with some of the transport ministers to see whether they could have some grant funding so they could mobilise this across the UK. They are going to keep in touch with me and let me know how those discussions are happening. I did an interview with one of the taxi drivers over Skype, and he's given us some information about why he feels it's important and what's motivated him in some of the discussions he's had with existing passengers.
Well, Sally, I know we'll have more from you over the next few weeks with that situation, so thanks for joining us today.
Since the UK announced we are going to be in lockdown for 3 weeks, we thought we would remind you of all the things coming to streaming over the next couple of weeks and highlight some of the best videos posted online. Our reporter, Harry Pettigrew, has more.
Thanks, Emily. Since we've broken up, I've just been around the house trying to plan what I'm going to do with over the next 3 weeks while we're in lockdown. So I've come up with a little list of what's coming up in streaming in the next couple of weeks and what to look out for, and some online videos that have boosted morale. So my first choice is Ozark, which is in its third series. It's come back after a 1-year hiatus, and it's about a financial advisor that moves his family from Chicago to the Missouri Ozarks, where he has to launder money for a drug lord to protect his family. The series has been praised for its portrayal of female characters and has been compared to HBO's The Sopranos, which is considered one of the best shows of the last 2 decades, and that releases on March 27th. My second choice is Picard, which is streaming weekly on Amazon Prime. It's based on the character from Star Trek: The Next Generation. After 14 years of being out of work, he comes back after someone needs protection. The series has gathered very good reviews from critics and currently holds a rating of 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. Spider-Man: Far From Home comes to Now TV next month on April 11th. It follows the events of Avengers Endgame, which came out last year. It features an A-list cast starring Tom Holland, Zendaya, and Jake Gyllenhaal. and it was one of the highest grossing films of last year. So if you're looking forward to something, that comes out on April 11th. 2 online videos that have boosted morale this week, I think, is Joe Wicks has been everyone's PE teacher for the last week. The stream has been seen by hundreds of thousands of people across the country as people do their PE lessons from home due to all schools being shut across the UK. The feedback has been extremely positive and has been a really good distraction for housebound kids. The second online video was Gary Barlow has been doing live concerts with some of the best known artists in the world. He's done a concert with Alfie Boe, Rick Astley and Ronan Keating this week. And the Karuna sessions, which they're called, have been uploaded to Facebook every day with no indication of him stopping anytime soon.
Thanks, Harry. That was Harry Pettigrew joining us from Cardiff with some things to keep us entertained over the coming weeks as we face at least 3 weeks of lockdown in the UK. Now, to the sporting world, there's been plenty of cancellations and postponements across the sporting world in the last few weeks. And there's been some breaking news coming out of the football leagues this afternoon in the UK. We have our sports correspondent, Tom Young, on the line to talk us through the breaking news now, Tom.
Yeah, so like you say, there's been some breaking news coming out of the football leagues within the last hour, as it's been confirmed that all football in England below the 3 divisions that make up the National League will end immediately and all results will be expunged. So in short, that means that there'll be no promotion or relegations in these divisions and the seasons as a whole are null and void. The same rule applies to our women's game below the Women's Super League and Championship level, but there's been no change to the Women's Super League or Championship, nor has the National League North or the National League South, with all of these divisions, as well as the higher tiers in the English men's game, working towards conclusion as quickly as possible. So what does that mean on a local front? Well, South Walian side Merthyr Town, who currently play in the Southern Football League, have seen their season come to a premature end. However, Wrexham, currently of the National League, as well as Newport County, Swansea City and Cardiff City, will be hoping to see their seasons recommence as soon as possible, although that won't be before April 30th, as that is the current earliest start date that these seasons will come back into play. But that, again, as with everything else in the UK currently, is subject to change.
Now, you've mentioned some of the higher clubs there in the divisions. There's been fans of many clubs wondering what happens next in terms of payment plans for upcoming matches, season tickets, etc., etc. With many people now out of work due to the government regulations and because of the coronavirus outbreak, it's a worrying time for households all across the country. What do you know about the payment plans for the next few seasons?
Yeah, so as you say, quite a lot of fans are worried about how they're going to go about paying these next instalments of season tickets or tickets, etc. But one Premiership club who've caused a bit of a stir is Newcastle United, owned by the ever controversial Mike Ashley, and they've started taking payments from fans' accounts for next season ticket. Now, with the conclusion of this season still up in the air, that is something which has caused a little bit of a stir. So fans have been charged up to £620 as of Wednesday, a decision which one Newcastle fan described as incredibly disturbing. The Newcastle United Supporters Trust has called on the club to suspend the scheduled payments during this time, but as of yet, the club have declined to comment. It's the second time that Mike Ashley has been in the news this week after he attempted to have his Sports Direct stores across the country kept open, despite Prime Minister Boris Johnson's new regulations, which were put in place on Monday night, stating that only essential stores were to remain open. A statement from the company on Tuesday morning said it would remain open as it was uniquely well placed to help keep the UK as fit and healthy as possible. However, after widespread criticism, they quickly made a U-turn on that decision. Newcastle United were officially put up for sale in October 2017, but despite a number of interested parties since that time, a sale is yet to be completed and Mike Ashley remains at the helm.
Thanks, Tom. That was Tom Young, our sports reporter there with us live from Manchester with all the latest goings on in the sporting world. Now, Amelie, I believe you're joined by someone special.
Yes, thank you, Dan. I am currently based in Denmark, where I am quarantined with my sister Johanna Kjellerup. And so far, I would say that the mood in Denmark is quite positive. And maybe you can tell me a bit more about that, because you're doing school remotely, right?
Yes, I am. My school is mostly over the network, and we have all our lessons there or in a video chat.
Yes, and how is that? Does people like it, or how do your other students think about that?
Well, everyone is doing their best, teachers as well as students, but people are a bit depressed in a way because they're not socializing too much in the day.
Do you like it?
No, not really. I'm really missing my friends and my teachers, and so.
So you're looking forward to go back?
I really am. It's really hard, and you are inside a lot because it's really dark, and so.
And have you met up? Because in Denmark at the moment, we are only in lockdown where you can meet up with 10 or less people, which is different than in the UK, where it's 2. Have you met up with some of your fellow students on a distance?
No. The last time I saw my friends was just before the lockdown or whatever, where I met 2 with my dear friends from my old school. But that was the latest. That must have been 2 weeks ago.
So do you chat a lot with them on a video chat?
Yes, I am.
Every day?
Calling them almost every day and talking with them. Also in my lessons in school, we do chatting a lot with them. It makes the school easier and more fun.
Okay, thank you, Johanna.
Amelie, you mentioned a little bit about your own personal life, and obviously we all have older relatives. You mentioned that you went to go and see your granny and granddad over the weekends, but couldn't see them as you would usually see them.
Yeah, so last night, my sister and I, we drove up to see my granddad, and that was a bit difficult because I haven't seen him for a long time, and I wanted to give him a big hug, but we had to tell him, no, Granddad, you need to stay indoor, and we talked through the door, and it was a bit difficult because he was like, oh, but you don't have coronavirus, so you'll be fine, you can just give me a hug, and we had to say, no, Granddad, we just can't do that. We're going to have to wait until this is all over. So that was difficult, but I felt that we did the right thing, even though we wanted to do something different and he wanted to be together. But we talked about maybe we could do that next week again. And I think as we move on and as the weeks go, I feel like we get more and more used to this social distancing, and you just gotta go through the beginning phase of everything. Yeah.
Thank you, Emily. Well, that's great. That's just about everything I believe we have time for today. You've been watching Atrium Live with me, Dan Moffat, and Amelie Kiddup. Thanks for joining us. Remember, if you're in the UK, stay indoors, only leave the house when absolutely necessary, and remember to wash your hands. Good night.